And in Kut, protests ended with some demonstrators storming a regional government headquarters. At least one teenager was killed in the clashes that followed. The city remains under curfew. Many of the protests have been organized online by young people, as Jane Araf now reports from Baghdad.
Naufal Falahi refers to this bench as her office. It's from here, with wireless modems, that she and two other art students have launched an internet campaign. It mobilizes young people to go out on the streets to protest.
There's many rules, working alone, and so we want to put them together. There was 1,000 people when we started on the first week.
It's all carried out on Facebook. Access to the web was essentially banned in Iraq before 2003. While Nauf and her friends had seen the internet a few times, they'd never been able to use it. Mustafa is now an expert in using videos and photos.
We're trying to get our message across, and we say that the youth can change things.
This college is a small oasis of freedom, but students here are trying to widen it, using technology to reach out to young people across Iraq and the region to demand change. Haider Fadel uses a mapping program to show where the protests have been held in Iraq and where they're expected.
This is the map of Iraq.
Soon they'll have photos and videos attached. The internet is a tool their parents didn't have, but it's just a starting point. The vast majority of young Iraqis don't own a computer or have access to the internet. Nauf's group, Iraqi Streets for Change, is also relying on flyers and tweets via cell phone to spread their message. Iraqis all have the same complaints: corruption, bad services, lack of jobs. But the young feel their very future is being hijacked.
My Iraqi government, you have every year, $86 billion. I don't have $5. Just like my brother, we don't have $5.
This is the most freedom they've ever had. They don't want to overthrow the system, but for the first time as a group, they're demanding a better life. Jane Araf, AlJazeera, Baghdad.
The Canadian government's computers have fallen victim to what's being called significant cyber attacks. Local media say hackers use China-based servers. They've accessed an agency that advises the Canadian Army, reportedly. Imtiaz Taibs has more.
Canadian security officials realized federal databases had been breached by a cyber attack back in January. Hackers reportedly using computers in China are said to have gained access to highly classified government information. It's still unclear what the hackers were looking for or what exactly they found, because the Canadian government isn't saying.
I don't comment on security operational matters.
But the Canadian media is talking. They've reported that initially it was Canada's Finance Department and the Treasury Board that were targeted. But further information obtained by journalists suggests another attack may have been launched, this time on departments responsible for national defense.
I can't comment on any specific reports, but this is certainly an issue we're aware of and that our security personnel are engaged in dealing with.
In Beijing, government officials were quick to dismiss allegations that China was responsible.
I want to point out that hacking attacks are an international problem. China is also a victim of hacking attacks, so saying that the Chinese government supports hacking attacks is groundless.
Regardless of who was behind the attacks, the Canadian authorities are taking the threat seriously. But this internet security analyst says the breach should really be seen as a blessing in disguise.
It's actually a gift. We've been given something to wake us up and to possibly armor ourselves against it.
There's been some suggestion the hackers were looking for secret financial information ahead of Canada's budget, which is due to be delivered next month. And while the Canadian government is quick to say that none of that information has been compromised, what's clear is that their databases have been, something they're scrambling to prevent from happening again. Imtiaz Taib, AlJazeera, Vancouver.
Well, stay with us. Coming up next, Rahul will be here with the sport, including cricket's World Cup begins with a lavish opening ceremony in the Bangladeshi capital, Dhaka. We'll look at how the country is preparing to host the biggest sporting event in its history. And the headache that wouldn't go away. A discovery by doctors delivers a Chinese man with long-awaited relief.
The times change. The instruments evolve. The battlegrounds shift.
This is America! Our country!
But the international struggle continues.
He was murdered!
Uncompromising, hard-hitting investigations.
I can't get no justice from no one in Jamaica.
People and Power, at this time on Al Jazeera.
All right, let's take you to Bahrain right now, and pictures being shown on state television there of a pro-government rally in the capital, Manama. This coming just a day after that brutal crackdown on anti-government demonstrators in the Bahraini capital. Several of those killed were laid to rest earlier Friday. Again, these are live pictures from Bahraini state television showing a pro-government rally there this Friday. Time now for sport, and here's Rahul.
Folly, many thanks. We're just a day away from the first match of this year's Cricket World Cup. Bangladesh will take on fellow co-host India in Dhaka. The eyes of the cricketing world were on the Bangladesh capital on Thursday as the tournament had its official opening ceremony. And as Andy Richardson reports, the country is determined to make the most of its chance in the spotlight.
14 rival captains together in the same place at the same time. Quite an achievement for a World Cup that will see teams crisscrossing 3 countries. With matches in Bangladesh, India and Sri Lanka, the logistical challenge here looks to be on a par with the sporting one.
Playing at home is great. The subcontinent has a lot of passion for the games, and Sri Lanka especially so. So to play in front of our home crowds on our home grounds for most of the games will be quite important to us.
Bangladesh is sharing hosting duties for the first time.